Here it is, the NFL Strategy Show, Monday morning quarterback edition. Taking a look at all of Week 9 slates, the results, the good, bad, the ugly, and applying all of that to Week 10 moving forward. It's been a wild weekend, and we're here to discuss it. I'm Dave Loughran. With me, Manny Laura, and the sponsor of today's show is Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, where you got the $250,000 NFL baller running again this week. Got CSV update or edits now, which is a wonderful thing. Of course, the 25K baller, 5K to first for NBA today. And you can get your $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points, those YSRPs, just by signing up through us at awesemo.com, AWESEMO.com. Go to the NFL tab, click on any of those free primetime articles, which you should read because EMAC does a great job, and you'll see the Yahoo link right towards the top of those. Click that, sign up, use the sign-up code AWESEMO, again, AWESEMO. Get your $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points, as good as cash, to be used on the site to play and win real money. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the NFL Strategy Show. Manny Laura, got a bit of a late start because I got a show that runs right into this. We're going to start, I think I'm going to start pushing it to 11:05 or 11:10, just so, we get the scheduling in order. But how you feeling this morning?
Good, man. Another week in the books. Didn't go as planned, obviously, at least for me. For you, it did. We were sweating on Sirius yesterday, so it was a lot of fun. Anytime you can sweat and have a top 1% lineup and just give you a chance, makes the week a lot of fun, man. So happy to see you do well. And I saw a lot of subs, Awesemo guys. Some of the guys in chat obviously have a good day yesterday as well, too. So that's always fun to see, man.
Yeah, nothing crazy for me. A good week, but that King of the Beach ticket was there. Like I was positioned really nicely for that, and then overtime hit in Seattle, and then Seattle got the ball. But I was the only one with Winston Godwin. And if they got the ball first in overtime, there's a very good chance that it's a wrap.
Yep. Totally agree, man. Sucks.
Yeah. What are you going to do, though? You move on. You live to see another day. Melvin Gordon, though, had him in some lineups. He ended up coming through. He actually, to some extent, despite 3.9 yards per attempt, looked like the Melvin Gordon of old.
Yeah, they gave him 20 carries, man. Anytime you can give you're starting back 20 carries, you're all for it. He hadn't seen that, and obviously his work in the passing game had diminished a ton now that Eckler, has been so good or whatever, but finally got some work, got a couple TDs on the ground, and you're right, he didn't look like Melvin Gordon from the past necessarily, but he's definitely trending in the right direction, and if they keep giving him that many touches, man, I love it. I love the prospectus going forward. Like he should do well. I think he should do well.
We're happy to have all of you guys with us, and we're going to break all of this down. How about Adam Thielen, though? Chris Klossner says R.I.P. Thielen. And yeah, Timothy, I had some good lineups going in the play action. I had a couple in the King of the Beach that were, first, fourth, sixth place, and then overtime knocked me down. But Adam Thielen was someone you had a lot of, and that's just gut-wrenching when he goes down like that, to know that a large majority of your lineups are going to take a hit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I think it's happened to I'm sure it's happened to a lot of people, right? I'm not the only one it happened to, but yesterday it was just brutal because I feel like when you're on one of those downswings where just nothing gets even remotely better for you, like it's not even close to ticking in the right direction, then the very beginning of another slate, the guy doesn't even play. I think he played like one snap and then just never played the rest of the game. And it's like, man, when you have 30-40% of this guy, it's like, man, almost half your lineups are dead and the slate hasn't even started. So, frustrating week again. It's things happen, man. I mean, I have no control over that. So whatever. And if it happened to someone in the chat, brother, I'm there with you, man. We'll get through it. Next week is a brand new week and we have another shot at it.
You're damn right. We can take a look at some lineup study. I'm sure you've already taken a peek at some of this. Yep. There's the week wasn't as high a scoring as we've seen in recent weeks, but still some really high scores. And of course, Seattle, Tampa Bay, which was, projected to be the highest scoring game and the most fruitful from a fantasy standpoint. A lot of times that doesn't work. Like the Rams and Atlanta Falcons game a couple weeks ago ended up being a huge disappointment. This one, however, was not a disappointment at all. And we saw what was it, 68 total points, or actually it might have gone over. Yeah, it went over that because of the overtime touchdown. I think 74 total points. The winner of the Millie Maker had 12 lineups. Second place had 1 lineup. You had, you usually look over all of this and from top to bottom. Were there any big names that had really good weeks?
There was a few, only because, I'd say for the most part, all sharks had pretty good weeks. It was a week filled with really good chalk. And anytime that's the case, a bunch of really good players are going to have, solid weeks. You saw Petty Theft atop the Millionaire Maker. I think he finished 13th. Petty Theft, obviously a phenomenal player. Fall from Grace was up there too. It's Pat, another good friend of my stream on Twitch, but he's a extremely good player. I say top 100, top 50 player, and he was also, I think, 5th in the Millie, qualified for a ticket to the finals as well. So I mean, there were a few guys that had some really good weeks, and they just didn't get that crazy in tournaments. They played what they felt was the strongest build, and if you played some of the highest owned players, Samuels and McCaffrey, I know that was a popular pairing when you pay really. When you pay down for someone and you play really up for the next person, you have a solid combination there. It worked out. If you paid for Wilson to lock it, obviously that worked out. That was one of the highest owned combinations as well too. And then if you just followed chalk elsewhere, if you followed the Zach Ertz chalk, not necessarily chalk, but what felt was the right play at tight end, you mix it all together and you have closer to the optimal lineup. We went over the optimal lineup yesterday on Sirius, and I believe it was 281 or 282. We saw scores reach 270 in the Millie Maker. So, I mean, it was really, really close to having the best possible lineup. And yeah, when that's the case and it's chalk that hits, a lot of good players are going to have good weeks.
So, Richard had the $1 million lineup on DraftKings, a score of 269.32. He played 12 lineups. 3 of them cashed. 2 of them min cashed. 9 of them didn't cash at all. Actually, as a matter of fact, 9 of them were just downright, I guess some of them were okay lineups, but nothing insane. And then 2 min cash and one won $1 million. Had 100 more fantasy points almost than his next closest lineup, about 80. And Manny, when you look at the exposure sum, sometimes chalk is what you need to win. He had 140+% exposure sum on every single lineup, 150.8 on his millionaire winning lineup. Russell Wilson threw 5 touchdowns. Kristin Mccaffrey, so he played a 10K McCaffrey, who's 10-5 for week 10, by the way. Jalen Samuel, thank God for those receptions because he rushed for 11 yards, had fewer rushing yards than receptions. Get that. Mike Evans, another huge game. Funny to think people were bugging out about him to start the year. Preston Williams at 8.7%. Preston Williams was a very good play, too. Yep. So he might not have been extremely popular, but he was a good play. Tyler Lockett, 42. Noah Fant, 23. Mike Williams, 17. And the Steelers at 19. So sometimes, and we say this all the time, sometimes all you need is that one low-owned player to get you where you need to go. And Noah Fant at 3K on DraftKings, 24 fantasy points, allowed him to get McCaffrey, allowed him to get Mike Evans and Tyler Lockett with Russell Wilson, and that's exactly how he won yesterday.
Yeah, it came down to who had the perfect iteration of a game stack that was really popular, right? If you played Russell Wilson to Lockett, or Metcalf, you ran it back with Evans. That was the popular stack up top, I guess, all around the top 1%. And then you played Samuel Chalk. Because you played Samuel Chalk, you also could afford McCaffrey. And then who were the pieces that you surrounded the stack with? And if you played Fant or Ertz at tight end, that was your ticket. And then Preston Williams looks like that cheapie at wide receiver that got you the 20+ fantasy points you needed. Some had Mike Williams. I know some had at the flex maybe Josh Jacobs, things like this, where it was, really, really just perfect the way it kind of all set in and kind of messed around with the salary. And then if you played the Steelers, obviously you were golden. So yeah, that's as good as you can get, man. Anytime you get that close to the actual optimal lineup, which I don't expect anyone to get to. It had Hollister, if I remember correctly, in it. to round out the game stack. But if you could have gotten there or gotten really close like Richardsard did, I think, man, that's a big time score, man. Congratulations.
No question. I wanted to take a look at someone that played 150 lineups. Somebody like Dirty 6613 played 150, came in, I guess, like 20th here, and still lost $540. Matter of fact, if you look at this, man, he's the only one in the. Let's see where he finished. He finished 23rd. Finished 23rd. Lost $540. What I find interesting is you look at the ROI on this. He's the only person in the top 60 spots to actually have a losing week. It is possible to finish in like the top 30 in the milli and not cash on the slate. Cashed 14 of 150 lineups. Meanwhile, you look at somebody. You look at, say, this fella right here, Hot Babe. I'm assuming that's what it says.
Yeah.
72 lineups. Came all the way down to 58 as their top lineup, but still profited 23.51. So there's plenty of ways to profit on the Millie Maker, but man, there are plenty of ways to lose money, even if you have one of the top 20 or 30 showings.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at that Dirty 6613 guy and you look at who he actually ran, it's even crazier to think his top owned quarterbacks were, and he did have some Russell. He only had 3 lineups of Russell Wilson. So I guess one of those 3 was the one that finished up. 2 of those 3 were his top 2 finishing lineups. But when you look at wide receiver, he completely bombed wide receiver. And that could be the reason why he didn't really make it there, right? Keenan Allen, 70%, did nothing. Allen Robinson, 45%, did nothing. Devontae Adams, 37%, nothing. Godwin, I mean, got to a little bit compared to everyone else, but I mean, it wasn't slate breaking at all. Amendola, 12%. Alshon Jeffrey, 10%. Chester Rogers, Brown, Tyrell Williams, like the list goes on, and that's all in order. The guy didn't have anything brewing for him at wide receiver, and yeah, even with one of those top 20, top 30 scores, man, you can't be that bad in your overall profile or portfolio if you think you're gonna make some money. So you have to really, really mess it up, and that was just one of those times where, man, he didn't hit not even one of those guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. I matched the field on McCaffrey. I had 25%.
Sure.
I was double the field on Derrick Henry, which certainly helped. And funny enough, I doubled the field on Jalen Samuel because I think I had 96% or 97%.
Yep.
And he was 50.7% in the milli. You look at some of these other guys. Let's take this guy, for example. I'm assuming it's called a hit spat. I don't know,
it's Pat.
Oh. All right. Now I'm with you. You think that's what it is?
I know the guy. Yeah, it is what it is.
His name's Pat?
His name's Pat, yeah.
All right. And it is Pat. This is Pat.
It is Pat, yes.
All right. How about that? Anyway, he played, 150 lineups, and he profited nicely. He profited almost $20,000. His top lineup, however, was a $20,000 winner. And he had $19,150 profit. So think about that. He had a $20,000 lineup. So I'm assuming that how many lineups did he cash? Cash 45 out of 150, right? And looking at his exposures, let's see where he came in on this. Player usage for it's Pat. 60% Devontae Adams was his highest owned player. This is pretty wild, right? Mark Walton at 57%. So 2 guys that let him down. His fifth highest owned guy was Chris Godwin at 35%. Dalvin Cook was 7. Look at this. Robbie Anderson was 8. That's pretty incredible, right? When 5.
I had really similar exposures to this. And man, how he even had some lineups up top, how he cashed 45 lineups with things like this. Yeah. I don't know. Mind-boggling, because some of these guys obviously weren't top performers. And then if you look at his top lineup or his top 7 lineups were 7 Russell Wilson lineups, which if you look at his ownership, Russell Wilson was the 5th highest owned quarterback.
Wow, 15%, right?
Yeah, so
Rivers he had 23% of.
Yep. So I mean, he kind of he just hit it perfectly with those Russell Wilson lineups. If not, he'd be down big time. I think. I don't know. Judging from the exposure.
I mean, look at this. Cameron. Well, he won $20,000 and profited less than $20,000. So
right.
Cameron Brate, 20% was his highest owned tight end. Devontae Adams, Godwin, and Anderson were his 3 highest owned wide receivers. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Walton was his highest owned running back. Dalvin Cook, he had almost 30%. Wow.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know how he got there, to be honest. Those Russell Wilson lineups came up big, and then it really all it takes is one, right? We say it every single time, but all it takes is one. You get a Russell Wilson game stack that had Metcalf and Lockett. You run it back with Evans, and then can you piece together the 3 filler? And he did. I mean, well, at least they were decent, right? Le'Veon Bell did okay.
Noah Fant.
Jamison Crowder, how did you get there? And then Noah Fant, yeah, there you go. And then playing the Steelers was, I think, key for most of these top lineups. Yeah, there you go. That's all you needed to really have a 259, almost a 260 score, and that's top 5 in the milli, man.
Yep, Steelers were that optimal defense yesterday. Mm-hmm. But like you said, you've got Wilson with Lockett, Metcalf, and Evans, and I had quite a bit of those lineups, which is one of the reasons that the day went well. And of course, I had Jalen Samuels in all of those lineups. Yeah. Like you said, you include Samuels as a free square. You pretty much nailed it. You just now have to hit those other 3 players and hopefully the defense. And he didn't take down the milli, but that was a lineup that came very close. And he honestly only had 42% Jalen Samuels. He was below the field on Jalen Samuels.
Yep, that's pretty bold, man. If you ask me, that's pretty darn bold. We had said it before. It's close to a free square as you can, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no question. We could take a look at the 20 max play action. This one takes a second to load, especially for my computer, which is running slow for some reason lately.
I mean, there's so many lineups in there.
Oh, it's crazy, right? It's most of my computer, but yeah, 475,000.
Yeah, 500,000 lineups will do that to you.
This is a 20 max, and I like tossing 20 lineups into this each week. Why not? 20 different from the 150 you throw in elsewhere, and then try and just cover as many bases as you possibly can. But I mean, we see how often, almost always, right? The score and the playmaker or the play action is a lot of times the highest on the entire week. Maybe the $1 or like the mini max, but you see the score shoot ridiculously high in this play action with a 500,000 entries.
Yes, it's one of those where it's only 20 max. It's not 150, but there's so many people 20 maxing this that I mean you just have like 5 times or. I mean, compared to whatever tournament you're comparing it to, sometimes there's some tournaments this has 5 times the amount of people, 6 times the amount of people. Yeah, you're going to get some ridiculous scores out of this tournament in every sport, really. If you look at it in NBA, it's the same way. If you look at it in MLB, it's the same way. In NFL, it's worse because these tournaments get closer to 500,000 people or 500,000 entries. So it's insane.
Yeah, and yesterday my computer, I don't know what's going on with it. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Dalvin Cook was a big disappointment. I thought he was going to have a strong game yesterday. I was completely understanding of, hey, just go with Kristin McCaffrey always because he's Kristin McCaffrey. But outside of Tyreek Hill, and I guess you could throw Damian Williams into the mix with that 91-yard touchdown that Tyreek Hill caught up to him on. Very disappointing for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, really not. You expected so much more. Thielen gets hurt. Diggs has 1 reception for 4 yards in that game. I mean, ugh.
Yeah, no, it was an awful performance from the team, right? Like, what did like I had no idea what was going on. I thought, well, Thielen going down, I think hurt them first, right? But Diggs should have stepped up in a big way, and he was non-existent. It's almost like he also didn't play, right? And if you don't have Diggs or Thielen doing anything, it's going to be a really long day for the Vikings, right? On top of that, Dalvin Cook doesn't do much. Now it's, okay, so who came to play, really, right? You still gave Dalvin Cook the touches. He still rushed 21 times and caught 4 passes on 7 targets, but he was really limited in production. You can tell when Thielen went out and the secondary could handle Diggs by themselves, they just dedicated everyone else to Dalvin Cook, And once you stop your only two playmakers on the team, then it's a wrap. Like, it's not even going to be close at that point. Luckily, it was Matt Moore and company on the other side, and the defense was okay to where they kept the game close. But it was you didn't get performances from anyone on this team. And if you were like me, who had some Dalvin, had a ton of Thielen, and because of that, I had a lot of Cousins. Man, this game, as close. This was, I think, I didn't cash any one of my Cousins lineups, or obviously any one of my Thielen lineups. And if I had Diggs, I don't think I cashed any one of my Diggs lineups either.
It's crazy, right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. Dalvin Cook, though, you asked, like, was he used enough? Here's what I said. I was like, Dalvin Cook, I think we'll see very similar amount of opportunities to Kristin McCaffrey. That's what I was hoping for, right? Because the opportunities really matter. Well, Kristin McCaffrey saw 27 looks. Dalvin Cook saw 28 looks in this game. He had 21 carries and 7 targets. It's not like Dalvin Cook didn't have an opportunity to put together a huge game. He just didn't. And it was against the bottom-ranked run defense in the league. So I don't know what to make of that, Manny. Probably not much. You just, you move on and whatever. It is what it is. But I was definitely surprised to see such an egregious game from him. Anyway, let's take a look at the 100K winner on the play action. What does he have? He played 2 lineups, so $6. Mind you, a lot of these people are playing like $6 on the entire week in the play action. And sometimes, like last week, the dude played 2 lineups or 1, Manny, and he won $100,000.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, you can tell from their lineups, like, that they're not looking at content and they're not, okay, for example, this one seems pretty okay if you ask me.
Yeah,
let's take a look.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. Singletary's a bit off the wall, but he was 6% owned, and I get it, against Washington in a game where you're double-digit favorites. So this whole lineup to me is actually pretty nice. Russell Wilson, Singletary, Samuels, Metcalf, Evans, Lockett, Ertz, Jacobs, and the Steelers. So you got a Seattle stack here, running it back with Evans. Pretty solid lineup.
Yeah, no, I love it. The game stack, again, that everyone at the top had. Jalen Samuels, your free square. How you're going to spend up the money afterwards is the question. You paid just a tiny bit for Ertz. You didn't have to go to Noah Fant at the very bottom. You could also fit in Josh Jacobs, which also was in a good spot, had 2 touchdowns, 120 yards. And then Singletary as your off-the-wall play. You fit in the Steelers. There you go. I mean, it's just who could have the better combination outside of that Seattle game stack. And this is the best one I've seen so far. I don't think I've seen a better score than 272. I could be wrong, though. I think 272 is the highest I've seen.
272 might be the highest. Yeah. I think it's very possible that it was. And just look, good job to you, fella. Okay. I'll take a look. I think you put 20 in here. I think I threw 20 in. Let's see. I don't know how I did on this. I think I cashed it. But unfortunately, this computer, I'm going to throw it through the wall, Manny. I'm going to throw it out the window.
You scored 245. You're in 116th place. I see you.
Okay. Yeah. I was trying to pull up to see how I did on the entire thing, but that only takes 17 hours.
Dude, it's so crazy because you can have every single person score like 20 plus on some of these days, and you'll still be like 116th in this tournament. By the way, 116th out of 100 or 500,000 entries. That's incredible, dude. That's so good, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was decent. Okay, so I typed a name in here. Mm-hmm. I want to show up, man. I need you to start doing screen share because this is going to drive me nuts. It just keeps clicking.
I'll just look at what you
just keeps checking it and unchecking it.
So, wait, did you check it?
I checked it.
Yeah, I see. Well, obviously, I'm on a delay looking at you, but yeah.
All right, but whatever. I don't know, dude. Oh, man. But anyway, it was...
Let me see if I can pull it up for you. I got you, baby.
All right, there you go. So, what is it? 20 entries. What was my top lineup in this?
Yeah, it was you finished in 116th place. You had 245.22 Wilson, Henry, Samuels, Evans, Lockett, Metcalf, Fant, Le'Veon Bell, and Redskins.
Oh man.
The Redskins, dude.
Oh, so I was what? Man, that sounds like I was there.
You were there, dude. When you're 116th place out of 500,000 entries, that's incredible, dude. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an amazing lineup, dude.
Yeah, no, I thought I was pretty close.
You are, yeah.
Did I profit on this?
I haven't opened it ever since I refreshed.
Yeah,
Wait, here, I got it for you.
I can't get it to work anyway because I'm stupid. But yeah, sir, I'll tell you what though.
You did profit $117.
117. Yeah, and it's only what? I think you can only put $60.
You can only
these.
put $60 in, yeah.
There's a few contests that are really nice. Like this one is, I don't want to say a roll of the dice because you only have 20 lineups, but the $9 slant is one that is really friendly from a payout standpoint.
Oh yeah.
The Millie Maker is you're going for everything, or you're basically going for broke on
Right.
that. And I think paying attention to some of the payouts is definitely important when you look at these, because with the Millie Maker, like I said, you could have a lineup that comes that wins $2,000 and you could legitimately still lose money on that slate
sure.
if you play 150 lineups.
For sure. It's such a bad tournament when you look at payout structure, and I feel like people are just enamored with the 1 million up top, but like, man, it's so hard to get there that it's over the. I say this all the time. When people ask me like, why do you play the Millie? I don't play the Millie because I expect a positive return on the season. That's so incorrect. I do not play that for that reason. I play it because in my bankroll I can, right? But it's not something I recommend to absolutely anyone, and people still join and wonder why they're negative in that tournament. It's awful. There's nothing good about the tournament. I've said this for years now, but why some of the top guys play it is not the same reason you should be playing. Those are totally different circumstances, and if that's what you're trying to do, don't believe me, that's the wrong path to go down.
For sure. You look at the luxury box, right? You got heavy hitters in this one, and you have 300 total entries. It's $3,000 to enter with a max entry of 9. So the winning lineup was Jake Lax. He had 3 lineups here. He cashed 2 of them. Let's see, because there's got to use a lot of discretion when you're in these. You don't just get to dump 150 lineups into it. Russell Wilson, Devin Singletary, Samuels, DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, Greg Olsen, Le'Veon Bell, and the Steelers. So as you can see, a lot of times in these, you can kind of miss on one player as long as you hit on everyone else. Now, he had 243 fantasy points, Manny. It was obviously a monster score. He won by 6 points. But if you miss on Greg Olsen in another contest, you're not winning that. But 243.8 is still a phenomenal lineup for a guy that played only 3 lineups in this.
No, yeah, fantastic. And if you played 3 lineups, here's how you should look at this. For those that play 3 maxes and don't play much more, should you have been on Russell Wilson? I think so, because how I would combat this is I'd play 3 different quarterbacks, probably 3 different game stacks here, right? Whether you play Samuels in all of them, McCaffrey in all of them, that's up to you. I think that's totally fine too. But I'd play 3 different game stacks and then fit in the best pieces around them as I can. Russell Wilson should have been one of your top 3 stacks on the board. So I love it. I see the Wilson, Metcalf, Lockett with Evans, and that's really all you needed to get a top 1% score. If you have, solid players around them, which with Samuels you should have, you did perfectly fine. That's in the heavy hitter or in the luxury box. That's way more than enough for you to get up there. So congrats.
Yeah. By the way, Wilson, Borders Road on Twitter, great dude, by the way.
Yep, awesome guy.
And like as a high stakes player, he's really good. Like, and I'm not talking about just like maxing. No, you'll see him with 1 or 2 or 3 entries and stuff, and he absolutely smashes. I feel like all the time, right?
Yep.
He came in second. He had 5 entries. Let's take a look at Wilson. I'm always happy to see this guy win.
Yeah, me too, man.
$100,000. And then he had another lineup that profited 6. That came in 30 seconds. So he cashed 2 of 5. But second place here, You've got Russell Wilson, Jalen Samuel, Le'Veon Bell, Anthony Miller. So that takes some stones. He got oh my God, he got a 0 and still came in second.
That's nuts. How mad would you be, right?
Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, Zach Ertz, Derrick Henry, and the Steelers. He took a 0 from Miller and won $100,000 with a 237.02 score, with an exposure sum, by the way, of 208%. Unbelievable.
A 0, dude. That's insane. If you look at the 200, by the way, it's all relative to the tournament, right? So Jalen Samuels in this tournament was almost 90% owned. It was 87.3. I mean, should have been. That's ridiculous, right? I mean, it might as well be 100 at that point, right? So, and for those taking the shot on just like getting away from that in such a high stakes tournament with a limited amount of entries, that's bold, man. That's bold. Yeah, I mean, good enough lineup, dude. A 0. I mean, he must
0.
No, he. I think he rages just a little bit sometimes. He must have been pissed with this Anthony Miller nonsense.
You would certainly think so. All right, what about the Thunderdome? Okay, it looks like that line, he didn't play that in the Thunderdome. Wilson took a loss on the single entry Thunderdome. The winner had 189 fantasy points. You start to see some lower scores here. Wilson, Samuel, that was in every winning lineup.
Right.
Melvin, Godwin, Evans, Tyrell Williams, Hawkinson, Chubb, and Steelers. Man, it is wild looking at these high stakes contests and seeing like the concentrated ownership, right? With Jalen Samuel and certain guys just see so much more ownership than they would on other on other contests. What about the heavy hitter? How many are in this? 4? 4?
Yeah.
Look at that. 194 is the total score. And Jalen Samuel was, of course, 100%. So it's fun to look at that stuff, man. Anything else you want to look at from lineup study that you think is relevant for the slate?
No, just kind of what was at the top of every tournament, and I think we've deciphered that. I think you needed that game stack, really, right? How far back were some of the other game stacks? I think Phillip Rivers in that game were extremely popular. It was very, very underwhelming. So if you had that one, I think you kind of failed there. I think you failed on that KC Minnesota game. You really had no one from Minnesota do anything. Like, apart from that Seattle game, the Miami game, I think, had a lot of people brewing early on in the slate, right? I think a lot of people with that Fitz to Parker Williams tandem. And if you brought back somehow Bell or Crowder, you were looking good heading into the 4 p.m. games. But the upside that you were looking for, it was good at the time. And that's kind of how I looked at or saw it on lineup study. It was good at the time. But if you really want to score 250 or so, you needed just a bit more from Miami, just a bit more from Fitzpatrick. And obviously Wilson was the one that got you there. So, no, it's just kind of analyzing the slate, what you really needed. I think it was just Seattle and Tampa, and then just fitting in good players around them. How do you adjust going forward is a question people will ask, and you don't really adjust. This is a week that was kind of straightforward for most, and it feels like everyone should have done pretty well on this slate, right? And if you were so extremely different from the field, it definitely cost you. But if you were somewhat with the field, just differentiated in very few spots, I think you should have done well. And Chalk came out on top.
It did. It certainly did. The perfect lineup on DraftKings. Russell Wilson. It gets wild too. Kristin McCaffrey. I get it. Damian Williams, Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Noah Fant, Jacob Hollister, and the Steelers. So not only is this a game stack, Manny, but there's Wilson, there's Lockett, there's Metcalf, there's Evans, and there's Hollister, who the touchdown on the final play of the game in overtime is in the flex spot. The 2 tight ends in the perfect lineup for DraftKings this week, Noah Fant and Jacob Hollister. Tell me you saw that one coming. A 5-player game stack from Seattle and Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think the common theme throughout the first 9 weeks has been the randomness or volatility at tight end. We had Ryan Griffin be in that spot last week, remember? And it was, all right, who played Ryan Griffin? I don't think anyone did. I don't think anyone played Hollister either this week, but they were in the best possible lineup. Here's something to look at too. Look how close actual users and actual lineups were to the perfect lineup this week. They were less than 10 points. We saw 272. That's less than 10 points away from what you just mentioned right now. That's really, really good.
Well, and I would say the ones that, so of the perfect lineup, a lot of times you'll see lineups that don't get anywhere close to that win in terms of the actual players.
Right.
But of 9 players, Wilson, McCaffrey, Lockett, Evans, Metcalf, and Fant, and Steelers, we saw them in some form or fashion in all of these top lineups. Maybe not in that exact way, but we saw a lot of McCaffrey, a lot of course, Wilson, Evans, Lockett, and Metcalf. I think were in every one that we saw.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I think so too. Yeah. Like the game stack wasn't in all of them.
Yep. Fant, it seemed Fant or Ertz were at tight end.
Correct.
And then Steelers defense was in all of them as well. So the only ones that were off the wall were Hollister and Damian Williams. That's it.
Yep. Totally agree. That's as close as you get to the optimal lineup in tournaments, man. That's so crazy.
How about the optimal lineup for Yahoo, because they include the Sunday night game? Was anyone from the Ravens Patriots game in it? It looks like not, but you had Preston Williams, Miami fella, Marvin Jones, Metcalf, Lockett, Henry, McCaffrey, Wilson, Noah Fant, and the Steelers again. Again, that's pretty par for the course there. All of those guys had some ownership, and I think you could make a good argument for literally everyone in this lineup. This one's as normal as you're going to get.
Yeah, I feel like this week, if you look at it as a whole, man, if you just play the best lineups, forget about everything else you usually do, right? Play the best players, play them all together. If you stack, if you game stack, but play the best possible version of everything you have, you did well, because the optimal lineups before the slate, like heading into the slate, like if you use FC and you just made the best possible game stacks or team stacks, those were all really good lineups. Those were all really, really good lineups, and you didn't need to get cute. You saw every position. They were all great players. The optimal lineups this week had just solid players at every position that you were like, well, okay, like Mike Evans is good. Lockett is good. Metcalf to Wilson's good. Samuels is great. McCaffrey's awesome. Like all these guys are good. I don't need to change anything. You won a lot of money this week.
Yes, you did. And when you take a look at the top producing players, are they not showing up? Why would they not show up here? They should be on DK Live. Usually we can take a look at the that's odd. Oh, you know what? Maybe
you're on the wrong slate.
Well, why? I don't know why week 8 would be selected. I just opened it up today. Here we go. So week 9, Russell Wilson, and we're not including Jimmy Garoppolo, right? This is why he was in all of those lineups, because Russell Wilson had 42 fantasy points. Russell Westbrook ruled out, by the way, right now, for those of you playing NBA. Check out the NBA strategy show. Josh and I just did it, by the way. It was an awesome one. You'll enjoy it. Russell Wilson, 42.2. Matthew Stafford was second at 29.8. So, I mean, Russell had 13 more fantasy points than the next closest quarterback. He's going to be in those top lineups.
Yeah, he has to be. And then you couple that with the receivers you pair with him, because most of the tournaments, we went over this, I think, a couple of weeks back, where most of the tournaments are now just stacking, at a minimum, stacking one player with their quarterback, right?
For sure.
Almost the entire tournament is doing this already, to the point where now you couple Wilson with Lockett, which should be the number one guy people are stacking with him, and you have a fantastic pairing, one that is light years ahead of the next best pairing. So, yeah, you're totally right with that.
Kristin McCaffrey with 40.6. Josh Jacobs was the next closest, 27. With quarterback, though, it's unique, because generally speaking, you don't see someone pull away from the pack that much, right? But at running back, this isn't a huge surprise because McCaffrey's so good, but no one really came close to him either. At wide receiver, Tyler Lockett, Evans, and Metcalf, all from the same game, were 1, 2, and 3, respectively. Zach Ertz and Noah Fant were up there. Nobody's playing Hollister, so they were far and away better than everybody else. And then how about the Steelers, though, Manny? 19, nobody else close to them either. Texans and Ravens weren't on this slate. So it's the Panthers with 11. It's very obvious why all of these lineups had those players. And a lot of weeks, you'll see, two defenses or three defenses with very similar. They all finished 13, 14, and 15. So if you have one of them, it doesn't matter. A lot of times at quarterback, the same is applicable. But this week, that's not how it was. Like at each position, somebody pulled away from the pack.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about defenses yesterday, man. Steelers being 8 points ahead of the next best defense. That's significant, man, because like I don't know if you needed Preston Williams in that last spot who had 24, you could have afforded, because you played Steelers over whoever, the Panthers, you could have afforded a guy who got you 15 or 16, 17 fantasy points and still might have gotten there because of the Steelers having 8 more points than the next best. And that's assuming that people had Panthers, right? It's what if you had someone that scored, or a team that scored less than that? Like, I don't know, man. That whole defense thing, the more you look at it, the more you start hating defenses, because my goodness, man, almost all the guys up top had Steelers. You're totally right. And I hate when it relies on a single defense to know if you can be in the top 0.5% of a tournament. It's frustrating.
Yeah. And it's even more frustrating because like you're looking for the turnovers, and if you're a favorite at home, that's nice. If you're looking against a player that throws a lot of picks, that holds onto the ball too long, a bad offensive line that gives up sacks, all of that comes into play pretty heavily. But the Steelers gave up 23 points and still had 19. On the other hand, the Bills gave up 9 points and only had 8 fantasy points. If you don't get those turnovers, if you don't get those sacks, if you don't rack up the real defensive points and just limit opposing teams, that's not going to get you where you need to go. And that's what makes it kind of dumb, because a pick 6 on a deflected ball, which was off the hands of the receiver and a perfect throw, goes the other way for a touchdown. I'm not saying this happened yesterday, but it happens all the time. And there's your top defense, where another team may hold a team scoreless and have 10 fantasy points or only 11.
Yeah, I think if they want to make it to where we still need to play defenses, maybe let's not value the touchdown so much on defense, right? Like you can make the like if interceptions are 2 and sacks are 1 or whatever the scoring is, make touchdowns 3 or 4 or something, because they're I mean, you can predict maybe sacks or maybe even interceptions a little more than you'd predict a touchdown. A touchdown, it could also happen by special teams, right? And the 1 or 2 teams that score a defensive touchdown are just light years ahead of everyone else. That it's if they're still going to run defenses, okay, fine, we're going to have to live with defenses, but don't make the touchdown count so much to where, listen, we allowed 23 points, but Minkah Fitzpatrick had a pick 6, so we score 11 more points than you did. You know what I mean? Like whatever the case is, like it's just that can get pretty frustrating because it sways. It tilts the tournament in one way or another for a lot of people. So, and obviously we're not in the business of making defensive models or anything like it. That's ridiculous.
Yep. And Timothy in YouTube chat says, just pay down. Yeah, of course. I mean, I had 45 combined percent Pittsburgh Steelers and Carolina Panthers defense, and both of them were cheap. Yeah. Not egregiously cheap, but cheap. And I had a lot, dude. I played 16% Redskins defense too, because they were $1,800. And again, sometimes all you need is a turnover, something stupid to go the other way and turn into big points, like a fumble yesterday from Edelman that turns into a defensive touchdown for the Baltimore Ravens,
Correct. Yeah. And what we don't see too is the other issue there is a defensive touchdown is also points against the other defense on the other side. So like Minkah Fitzpatrick's pick 6 also was negative points for whoever they were playing. I can't remember their defense, and like their defense didn't do anything. It wasn't even on the field. And then you took points away from them too. Like there's so many things. Like it's easy for someone to say, cause I'm reading the comments in the YouTube chat. It's easy for someone to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like it's totally fine. Well, you don't know that because you're not seeing how valuable it is to your profit and loss in real time. But a Minkah Fitzpatrick touchdown and you have, say, 3% Steelers makes the world of a difference, no matter if you had Russell Wilson, Lockett, Metcalf to Evans, because there was a lot of people who had that same combination. It was just the Steelers guys were the ones that really got there. You were probably, and I'm not saying him specifically or anyone specifically, is the person that had, the Panthers instead of the Steelers in
Redskins,
that
I think
back,
it was. But
now
yeah.
you're just 10 points back.
Right.
And you equally had the same lineup. So when you look at it that way, it can be really, really worrisome. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you haven't checked out awesemo.com yet, we actually had a question about, how are these guys looking at these lineups or contests they're not in. That's Fantasy Cruncher. It's the lineup study. You can get the add-on at awesemo.com. Manny Laura is with Fantasy Cruncher, does a lot of his work over there, and of course puts in the time really learning and studying this, which is why we love having him on this Monday show. You can get that at through us at awesemo.com and use the sign-up code NFL Strategy, all one word. When you sign up, it'll get you 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus membership. Pretty spectacular, I must say. Actually, as a matter of fact, take a look at the screen. Awesemo.com/join. If you scroll down here, you can read Alex's wonderful bio, #1 ranked DFS player in the world. Before you buy it, look, you got player projections. You can learn how to use them, the ownership projections, the lineup builder, the top stack tool, our premium Slack chat, and so much more. And one more thing, because we want you to know where your money's going. If you click begin membership, we'll ask you what type of player you are. And you click one of them, we could cater the subscription to your needs. So you're not getting too much, you're not getting too little, and you feel good about where your money's going. That's why Alex started awesemo.com, to really be able to cater subscriptions and packages to the player and not just have one size fits all, which really doesn't fit everyone at all. So to get your first month of Awesemo Plus membership 50% off, use the sign-up code NFL Strategy. And if you want to check out some free content today without signing up, well, you can do the $3.95 Express package, $3.95 a week, $3.95. Or you can check out Alex's Awesemo Showdown rankings today. They're free on the site. The NBA boom bust probability, also free on the site. NHL rankings free. And we have a Monday Night Football giveaway, Manny. Cowboys versus Giants.
Yeah, baby.
All you got to do, guess who scores the most fantasy points? It doesn't even matter if you're right or wrong. You'll get entered anyway. Just go and see the pinned tweet at Awesemo_com on Twitter. Reply, retweet, and like, and follow Awesemo_com and Awesemo NFL, and you will be entered to win a free 2019 Awesemo Plus NFL season pass. There's still half the season left. So just retweet, like, and reply with the player who scores the most fantasy points, and follow our Awesemo NFL and Awesemo_com handles to get entered to win. We wish you the best of luck. Manny, where can everybody find you before we get out of here?
Yeah, on Twitter, you can go to @mlaura, tweet me, send me a message, whatever you want. Troll me. Who knows? Who cares? You could find all my work on fantasycruncher.com. You could find my live streams, which go live right after this, on twitch.tv/mlaura.
All right. Ace Ventura says, Dave Laffey. You know what? I won't even read it. I'll tell you this much, though. I'd never be in a frat, fella, so that's a lie. All right. We'll see you back here next time. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. And hey, hit us with a thumbs up if you enjoy the show and you would love to help support us here at youtube.com/Awesemo so we can keep doing free content day in and day out. Appreciate all of you. Good luck tonight in the showdown in NBA, and check out all of the content on the site and on YouTube throughout the rest of the day. We'll catch you back here on tomorrow's edition of the NFL Strategy Show with Sal Vetri and myself, Dave Loughran. Peace.